In this video, I'll be covering some of the handy precious metal formulas you can use to count your stack. Because once you start to grow your stack, you'll have a mixture of subsidiary coins, which are half dollars, quarters, and dimes. And you'll have dollar coins like Morgans and pieces. And you might have 40% silvers like the 40% half dollars or quarters. And you'll have a mixture of other stuff, maybe a mixture of silver and gold. You might have some bullion that are rated in grams. So here are 8 handy precious metal formulas and also 4 bonus ones. This first formula is the one you'll probably use the most. This is a formula you use to calculate how much pure silver weight you have when adding up all your 90% silver coins. But this works for subsidiary coins like dimes, quarters, and half dollars between 1873 and 1964. The dimes, quarters, and half dollars before 1873 had a different silver content. So all the ones between those dates have the same silver content, and those are most likely the ones that you would be adding up by silver weight. Everything before 1873 would be more numismatic. So the way you calculate your pure weight is by adding up all of your coins together by face value. So for an example, I have this clock here. It's filled with 1964 coins. So it has 2 half dollars, 2 quarters, and 8 dimes. So that's a total of $2.30 face. So if I were to figure out how much silver is in this clock, I would take the $2.30 face and times it by 0.715. And what I would get is 1.644 ounces troy. So out of all the equations, this is the one that you should remember, keep in your head and remember it at all times, but also remember that this is just for dimes, quarters, and half dollars. I'm going to move on to dollars now, like Morgan dollars and peace dollars, and you'll see why I'm telling you not to use that formula for dollars. So you can see here that for the dollar size coins, it's an actual standard dollar, which has more silver content in it per dollar than the subsidiary coins. So if you had $20 in silver dollars, or like a tube of Morgans, you would take $20 and divide it by 0.7734. Or if you turn 0.7734 upside down, you'll see hello. So that's a way to remember it. So you can remember the subsidiary coins as 0.715, and you can remember dollar coins like Morgan's hello upside down. So that's a way you can kind of memorize it. So if you take 20 Morgan dollars and you divide it by 0.07734, you'll get 15.46 ounces troy. This next formula shows you how to convert troy ounces of 90% junk silver into face value. So let's just say that you were selling and you told someone that you had 20 ounces of 90% silver coins, and they asked you, what is that in face value? Right away, you would probably say, I don't know. But the way to calculate that is to take 20 ounces of subsidiary coins, half, quarter, and dimes, and times it by 0.14. And you would see that 20 ounces converts into $28 face. Now, if you were doing Morgans, you would count it different. So the way you would find the face value out of that 20-ounce bag of Morgans is to take 20 ounces and multiply it by 1.29, and you would get $26 face value. So before I move on, just remember that there is more silver in a silver dollar than 2 half dollars. You can see here, if you had two 90% silver half dollars and one Morgan, there is actually 1.75 grams more silver in a Morgan dollar than 2 halves. So just remember that. Everybody's always hated the 40% silver half dollars, but they're starting to grow a trend again, especially since silver is so expensive. So this formula shows you how to convert the face value of your 40% silver coins into actual silver weight. So again, for the subsidiaries, you calculate it by taking your total amount in face value of 40%, half dollars, and quarters, and timesing it by 0.2958, or calculating that every $3.38 and 40% face value is 1 ounce of silver. Now, for the Eisenhower dollars, not all Eisenhower dollars are silver. Only the proof collectible ones are. The regular circulating ones have 0 silver content in them. So what you would do is take the total amount of Eisenhower silver dollars you have and times it by 0.3161, or just remember that for every $3.16 you have in 40% Eisenhowers, you have 1 ounce of silver. This next formula shows you how to convert grams into ounces. So if you had 3 100-gram bars like you see on the screen, what you would do is you would divide them by 31.1, because that's how many grams are in an ounce, and you would get 9.64 troy ounces. That one's pretty simple, but it's a good number to remember. That's something that most silver stackers and gold stackers know, 31.1. This formula shows you how to calculate the gold to silver ratio, and the gold and silver ratio is helpful to let you know which metal is stronger at the time. Usually, this is something you track when you're buying or selling. So, usually, when the gold to silver ratio is 80 or above, it's good to buy silver. And when it's 70 around that, it's best to buy gold. So that's kind of the threshold that most people follow, the 80 to 1. But the way that you calculate that is you get the gold price, the gold spot price, and you divide it by the silver spot price. Currently, as I'm making this video, the gold to silver ratio is 74.77. This formula shows you how to calculate the face value of gold coins into ounces of gold. So let's say that you had $60 in face value of gold coins. So what you would do is you would divide it by the original gold price of those coins, which at the time, pre-33, was $20.67. So you would take $60 face value, divided by 2067, and that would give you the amount of ounces that you have in gold. This formula shows you how to calculate the melt value of different coins. So if you get into world silver coins, you'll see a lot of silver coins from a lot of different countries have different purities. So it's kind of hard to calculate the melt value of those coins. So here's the calculation. There's a short one and then a long one, kind of like a standard and kind of the way I do it. But the formula would be to take the spot price of silver and you times it by the weight and the purity of the coin. So the way I do is I get the current silver spot price and I divide it by 31.1, and that gives me the silver spot price per gram. Then I weigh the coin or I look it up. So this coin is 28.276, and then I times it by the purity, 0.925. So I get 26.155. So I take that 1.829, which is the spot price of silver for 1 gram, and I times it by 26.155 grams, and I get $47.57. So now onto the bonus formulas. So this one just shows you how to calculate the purchasing power of a 1933 dollar. So you can see the melt of a $1 gold coin is right now around $204. That means that the purchasing power pre 1933 is about $200 today. That's if you compare it to the gold dollar. Now, if you compare it to the 1935 silver dollar, which this was the last year the silver dollar was minted, a 90% silver dollar, you can see that the melt value is $44.13. So the purchasing power of the dollar in 1935 was about $44 today. And if you look at the last 90% silver coins that were minted in 1964, you can see that the purchasing power of the dollar then was about $41 today. And if you look at the 40% half dollars, which were the last silver coins made for circulation, minted between 1965 and 1969, you can see that the melt value on those are $8.45. If you times that by 2, it's $16.90. So the purchasing power of the dollar in 1969 is about $16.90 today. So you can kind of see how the dollar has just dissolved into nothing since 1933 at $200 to 1935 at $44 to 1964 at $41 and to 1969 at $16.90, and now it's nothing. And for the last formula, this shows you how to calculate the premium percentage of a coin you're purchasing. So let's say you're paying $50 for a Morgan, and the Morgan melt is $44.28. So what you do is you get $50 and you subtract $44.28. Then you divide that number by $44.28. You'll have a weird number like 0.016. But then you times that by 100 and it'll come up with a number like 16.6. And that is the percentage of the premium that you're paying over the melt. So a Morgan dollar at $50 is 16.6% over melt, which is a 16.6% premium. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. I reply to every comment, but I want you to share this video because I really think that these are some key formulas that a lot of silver stackers and anybody dealing with precious metals or coins needs to know. Because a lot of coin shops and dealers might not think that you know these formulas and they might be ripping you off. And also, it's good to know what you're actually paying for when you buy stuff and also when you sell. So please share this with everybody you know. And if you're interested in learning more about gold, silver, and fiat currencies, click the link in the description. You can go through my gold, silver, and fiat currency course. And I really think by the time you finish, or at least get halfway through the course I'm working on, you're going to be more knowledgeable than everyone you know. Thanks.